Hi and welcome back. I'm Wayne. You can find Broken Ceasefire and Xander's Salvation on the Amazon bookstore under my author name of W.A. Blinko. But just want to talk to you about podcasts, why I have one and how I use it. Now, I have a podcast that goes out every week, and essentially it's another way of reaching out to my prospective audience who are predominantly sci-fi fans. Hence the channel, Sci-Fi Fans, and the brand really has kind of evolved from just a YouTube channel to TikTok and now the podcast. I use the podcast the same as the other two platforms really to reach out to my prospective audience. I do this by having each episode on a particular film or actor, and I talk about it for about 10 to 15 minutes. I also have special guests come on board, and in particular I've had Asa Rodriguez, who is a science fiction author, come on board, and he's used it to promote his book, which has gone quite well. I do have other guests in mind to come on board, and you'll get those details as and when. But yeah, it's not as difficult as it seems. I kind of thought, well, podcasting, that means I'm going to have different equipment, and then I'm going to have to distribute it. How do I get it, for example, onto Apple Podcasts? But then there's also Kindle, not Kindle, but Amazon, then Google and Spotify and all these other platforms that you need to publish it to. We don't have to, but it helps if you're on them. So the software that I use is basically Anchor, and it allows me to record the podcast directly onto the phone or computer or tablet, wherever I am, using whatever I need to record it on. It's also it's available on all those platforms, and they deal with the distribution. So my podcast goes out on all of the big hitters. There's at least 8 different platforms that I'm distributed to, and it doesn't cost anything. And anything that doesn't cost anything, and you've got the ability and the time to do it, is probably well worth doing, because what have you lost? Nothing. That's the idea anyway. So yeah, the podcast goes out and I use Anchor. Anchor is quite it's a little bit fiddly to learn how to use. There's a little bit of a learning curve there. I'm still learning myself. For example, once I put this episode together and I thought that was done and dusted, so I then went to make the second episode without realising that it was adding the content onto the end of the previous episode. So there are a few things that you need to learn as you go along, and I have learned how to do that. The other thing that I'd say with Anchor is it's much easier to actually format and edit the podcast episode itself on a PC. Now, I use a Mac, and again, you don't have to use Anchor for your podcast. If you've got a Mac, you've got GarageBand, and GarageBand has a facility within that little piece of software to create a podcast. There are other various platforms that you can create a podcast on. I'm not familiar with all of them because I found Anchor to be useful. It does the job for me. So my recommendation is have a look at those other platforms out there and choose which one you feel you're going to get to grips with easiest. As I say, I found Anchor really easy to get to grips with, and I can produce a podcast episode in about an hour from start to finish. That'll be from writing the script to recording the script and then editing it all together. Unless I'm doing an interview which goes on for longer, but then it's the interview that's taking the time rather than the editing process. So there you go. I will probably do a how to use Anchor video in the near future if there's enough traction for it. That's it really. Just wanted to say and talk about Anchor and podcasts in general. Incidentally, if you are a self-published author and you'd like to come onto my podcast, then please do get in touch, and we'll just arrange it. So yeah, I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. So say podcasts, if you've got the time and the ability to do one, it's not going to cost you anything, so hey, why not? And yeah, that's it for this week. I look forward to you joining me next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye.